The first item on the agenda is public comments. Are there any public comments?
Electronically.
All right, we will move on to finance. Enclosed and online is a copy of the treasurer's report from April of 2024. Can I have a motion to accept the report?
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
We got everyone. Kristen is not attending.
No.
Since there are no operations for item 3, we'll move on to the consent agenda. If it's okay with the group. Can I have a motion to accept the consent agenda?
I do have that to pass.
We have minutes, warrants, retirements, leaves of absence, resignations, and nominations. Motion to approve this.
Second.
We have a motion on the table to approve the consent agenda. Are there any discussion items with respect to the consent agenda? I have one question that I thought within the resignations, I was wondering if there was a comment just about school culture with respect to math teacher.
Yes, I saw that.
I was wondering if at some point, like in a future board meeting, we could understand what the exit interview process looks like from a board perspective. If that would be helpful for me.
I can tell you what that is.
Oh, sure. I didn't want to put you on the.
So we do, everyone we have a service that does the exit surveys. We used to do individual exit interviews, but it's just too many employees for that. So it was Barry in HR. So they get an email from the survey company that they want to do the survey, and they can request an individual one-on-one meeting too, but everyone is mailed an exit survey to fill out, and then it's processed through that company.
And then you review the data.
We review it.
Are there any other questions before we move on? Can I have or all in favor of approving the consent agenda?
Aye.
Anyone? Okay, and we will move on to the Spinelli. I asked for the Spinelli field discussion item to be on this agenda. At our last meeting, we voted as a board unanimously to bring the Spinelli field to vote again to the taxpayers. I wasn't prepared at the last meeting to describe what our options are for voting dates. One of the options was in June, and that it's from a time perspective in terms of our legal requirements, it's too close at this point for us to vote for that. There's several options. There's an August 13th Vermont primary election. And I'm just gonna note, this is from Cassie Cassandra, who is the town clerk. She said generally voter turnout is low during this. It also it creates comments voter is generally lower than town meeting day. The November general election is automatic ballots from the state, so you get very few in-person voters. And ballots from the school are not generally will not be automatically generated. So that option would be August 13th. November 5th would be the federal election. We also have the option to have a September 10th special election that would be solely for the purpose of bringing Spinelli to the voters. Those are the 3 options that we have on the table. So I wanted to have a general board discussion about how we feel and what about the dates and what would make the most sense. So
It's my understanding that the November would be too late for next year. That was my understanding. Is that still inaccurate?
in terms of getting things in
So,
place.
yeah, so if it passed and we, that with going out for bid and the whole process that would be required, that's pushing it late.
That is
I
my
feel like that was our discussion last time.
That is my understanding also, that it is, I think the reminder that Renee had mentioned was that if we did have voter approval, there is a bid process that has to happen with respect to the field. And so that is going to take a while beyond this. So the,
Do we weigh that with voter turnout, which for last town meeting day, or I'm sorry, not for vote, or for town meeting day, but for general election, because simply the turnout's gonna be there. Just my 2 cents in an opinion, with these special elections that have come out, you've seen a couple hundred people come out, and that could bring us dangerously close to a third loss, and then it becomes a dead issue.
so we have,
So that, you know.
we have two bond votes within a 12-month period, is my understanding. So this would be the second bond vote, and based on my conversation with Renee, is that then the board would have, you know, if this did fail again, the board would have the ability to make a decision for the March vote. Again, depending on the timeline. I think actually in all three of these, it's timeline.
Now to,
The,
this was an easy button.
I was thinking just for turnout numbers too, because my thought is like, is if we try to get it in when did you say September?
so August 13th, we could have our own ballot with that election. It's not tied to the state. The state will not, it will not be part of the state election. So people could go into the polls or ask for absentee ballots for that. The November election, it is not mailed
Right,
with it. So from a voter turnout perspective, I'm not confident that we're going to have more, just because more people will go out to vote, that they're actually going to vote for the school ballot. Because they're not paired together.
I think it would really, to me, it would really depend on what's going to be different in terms of how are we going to get the information out there differently this time? Sort of sway some of those. And is there going to be enough of a push to get that out of there, to get all of the information out that we need to by August? Like, how's that gonna look? Like, that's what I'm really am interested in hearing about.
How it would look to have, like, in terms of distributing the information and
Yeah,
educating
like
the
what's
public.
gonna, like, how are we going to do it different this time? You know?
Afraid that if you pushed it to November, that's when property taxes are due, and our property taxes are up to, you know, significantly. And so if you're, I mean, current estimates are around 20%. So if people are getting property tax bills and then they're being asked to vote on increases, November seems like not crazy.
So, I mean, so do you have any thoughts? I just don't want to have, I can outline my feelings on it, but I don't want my thoughts to drive the way the board, you know, right?
I think there's gonna be pluses and positives and negatives to every option. I think whatever we decide, we're gonna have to do the same things to get people aware of why this is so important again. And it won't make any difference whether it's earlier, whether it's one day or another. The work is going to be the same.
So I almost, my thought is that I don't think we'll get the bang from the buck from August. So do we just have the special election in September? That gives us more time.
So, I mean, that would, my preference, so if I'm like walking through it, one of the things, so September would have the students back in school. We would have had time to set up a group and a campaign and like some one-sheeters and some information. We can also engage the outgoing seniors with absentee ballots before they go. We could show up at events to educate people, like perhaps like when you're standing at a lacrosse game and saying like you could be standing over here, if you know. And the other component that I feel like it might allow if we had it not at the August time, but September, is one of the things that I've started to do is just talk to people about the potential of having, you know, if the board would accept the idea, of having some pledges from community members to pledge funds if the ballot passed. Then we can't modify, what the what we're asking the taxpayers, and we can't, like, the statute, or like the law defines what we have to put on the ballot. So we can't change that, but if we also secured some pledges and said, like, we heard the community, we can't, I think Scott actually calculated how many bottles it's going to take to raise for the Spinelli Field, which, like, the acknowledgement that we don't have that many bottles or Christmas trees or, whatever, like, but that if we could secure some good, some sponsors that would commit, if we pass, that might also get the community a little bit more engaged. That would be.
And informing them that in turn will lower the carrying cost, right?
Because what we are asking the voters, or what we did ask the voters the last time, was up to that,
Right.
right? Like,
Right.
that is, like, when, like, the amount that we're spending is contingent on really the next step, which is asking, is a bid process and looking at it. So that would be mine. I'm also open to, I'm open to any avenue that, I'm sure there's like a million different ways to look at it, so. If I haven't heard from.
I'm a little disappointed. We haven't done a better job of selling it. I keep waiting for, I thought we were gonna have here's the cost of existing, here's the new cost. I thought we'd be handing that out at Mayfest and all kinds of other
Mayfest isn't
things.
here yet. We have a booth, so. I
Yeah, we have
think,
a booth and we don't have any information.
Well, yeah. Yeah. I mean, I actually personally think the committee did a great job of doing the different presentations. I think we need to distill some of that information and get it going if we're gonna do it. And so, that's my opinion. I mean, I thought, Chad, everybody did a great job putting it together.
60 million bottles.
So we were doing.
Can you return, is it higher in New York if you return them?
Well, we can bring water bottles there too, so maybe we'll get it from there.
Right, I felt like you were gonna say something too, did you?
No, I wish I had more to say. I just, when everything has a plus and a minus and a contingent attached to it, and, there's no easy way to.
When's Garlic Fest?
Labor Day week.
And when are we talking?
September 10th. Or August 13th, so August 13th, September 10th, November 5th.
I feel like you're gonna have a lot of people on vacation in August.
August.
That was my general feeling.
Yeah, I like September.
And I don't
Yeah.
think, since it's just a primary or whatever, I don't think we're gonna get the numbers from that it's worth doing in the middle of the summer with having people on vacation. And I think everybody's back in like day-to-day mode come September, like, your typical grind. Summer, everybody's in summer mode,
Another month could make a difference in more outreach and.
Right, exactly.
So,
I say September, then we can do Mayfest, we can do Garlic Fest, do both.
that'll take. Good.
That was
Is that a motion?
No, I'm just.
I mean, yeah.
I'll make a motion. I make a motion to do a special election on September 10th
Or Spinelli Field.
for Spinelli Field.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? Okay, all in favor of voting for Spinelli Field on September?
Aye.
Great, motion carries. Superintendent report.
Very brief tonight. It's really reminding everyone, it's probably in the principal's report too. The last day of school has been determined and I want everyone to know about it. It is June 14th for students. That is a half day for everyone. It's going to be a half day of school on June 14th. Last day for support staff is Monday, the 17th. The last day for teachers is Tuesday, the 18th. The next day is Juneteenth. We don't have an equity coordinator, so that is impacting our ability to have a Juneteenth celebration. But thanks to your chair, we did connect with the town of Bennington, and we do have some funds available from last year's grant that we can help at least offset some of that. And it probably won't be the big event that we had, but it will be a recognition of that day. So we'll be hopefully partnering with the town of Bennington to at least continue that. speaking of that coordinator, we have a round of interviews tomorrow, hopefully. We have a solid candidate, and encouraged by that, because it's been a difficult position to fill. But it seems everybody, every company, every organization, every college, every school is looking for someone with those skills right now. And not to add to the confusion of dates, but Arlington, which is part of the SU, their last day for students is the day before. They had one less snow day than we do. And someone says, how is that possible? Because they have their own transportation system, a different transportation system. So right. It is a challenge. So any questions with the superintendent this evening? Anything you want me to be aware of?
We'll move on to daily schedule for students of 2024, 2025. I think this is a further discussion from our last meeting.
So master schedule continues to be worked on. I enjoy scheduling, probably a little less now, but puzzle being put together. We did have a new schedule this year. We learned a couple things. The core goal is I have two goals. One, first goal is that core classes, math, English, social studies, and science should be year-long experiences in the 9th and 10th grade. The data shows that, we still have work to do in ELA and mathematics. It's a challenge when a kid takes a math class in the fall of their 9th grade year and doesn't see math again until the spring of their 10th grade year. Having said that, I think I said this last time, the experiment this year in 60-minute classes across all 9th and 12th grade is not as effective as I'd like it to be. It limits choice, especially among 11th and 12th graders. And so that's the second goal, is to make the high school experience different from the 9th and the 10th grade to the 11th and 12th grade, where you start taking college courses, where you start loading up on APs, where you're going to be engaged in the Southwest Tech program, which has its own requirements sprinkled on top of our schedule, because they require a 2-hour window, either in the morning session or the afternoon, in order to complete the requirements as required by the state of Vermont. So, and then add on that, putting teachers to classes. So where we are right now is working with a schedule. We're going to actually, we meet weekly on this. We're making progress. But for next year, 9th and 10th graders will have a 90-minute block for English, social studies, a 90-minute block for social studies, or for science and math. And they will alternate, or they will team teach teachers will be working collaboratively as they work across, but kids will have core experiences across the year. Electives will be semester based, and there'll be 60 minutes. So kids will have, in the 9th and 10th grade, they'll have 2 opportunities. They'll have more opportunities for both the first and the second semester. If you're an 11th or 12th grader, it'll look somewhat similar to what we had when I arrived, and that will be semester-based core classes, 90 minutes for math, science, English, social studies. And your electives will be a 60-minute offering for you. Again, that'll give 11th and 12th graders a little more flexibility and a little bit more choice as far as if they want to engage in Southwest Tech, if they want to take an elective. So that's kind of where we are right now. And I like I said, it has been an ongoing process. I really want to thank Nancy Vanderbilt and the team, poking lots of holes and ideas, plugging actual kids into programs and saying, hey, how does this work out over 4 years? Yeah, there's no magical schedule. If there was, every high school in America would follow the same exact schedule, but that's where we are right now. I can take questions if folks have them.
My questions last time.
What's that?
I said I asked all my questions last time.
Okay. I do, to your question, I do have individual student, they're not actual kids, but like this is what a 9th graders would look like at a 10th graders. I'm happy to provide those. I just ask that we're gonna actually run this master schedule. We're gonna load 800 kids into it over the next couple of days, and that's where you kind of go back in and look and see where it's hanging up. If I can get through that, I'm happy to come back and we'll lay that out for the Ed Committee or whatever group wants to take a look at that and walk that through.
Great, thank you. All right, if there's no questions, we'll move on to the,
Um,
I'm sorry, no, no.
No, I'll save it for your report. Go ahead. I have a question.
Okay.
All right, we'll move on to the student representatives.
So we just have a few things to talk about. So as we all know, AP tests started last week on Monday, and they'll be wrapping up this week on Friday. So I believe the last one is AP physics. And then as we're approaching the end of the year, graduation is coming up. And as of right now, graduation is set for June 7th, and the current plan is for it to be outside. And I believe each student gets, I think, 8 tickets. Is the idea, I think.
So we had the unified game last week. And it was really successful. I was able to go during my 6th block class. And it was really great to see the student support for that team. It was my first time seeing them play. So I think that would be a really good recurring event. Is that it? Oh, prom. I don't really know much about prom this year. It's on June 1st, 7 to 11. Tickets are on sale for $15, which is a pretty reasonable price in this area. It's gonna be at the Hubble Homestead at Colgate Park.
And I think that's pretty much all we have to say for right now. And if anybody has any questions, we'll be happy to answer them.
For the record, do you guys want to say your name again and what grade you're
Oh,
in?
yeah. Hi, I'm Emily. I'm a current junior at MAU.
And I'm Chloe and I'm a sophomore.
My administrative assistant has asked, I don't know if she reached out to you, how best to email them the agenda for these meetings. She doesn't have it.
Yeah, I did you?
Yeah.
I used a student email, which is a little bit cumbersome because it's a series of numbers, but you got, and I think I copied her, but I'm happy to follow up again with that. I created I also.
That was a request at last meeting, because we want you to have this in advance. And as my understanding of this unified game, was there some dancing at the game?
I got that in my principal's report. I got my hands on that video.
I've seen a video. Yeah. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Move on to Principal Payton.
I'm not gonna talk about dancing. I just deny it happened. Taylor Swift overtook me. I actually wrote a note to myself, so let me just cover this really quickly. End of year for the high school, a couple of calendar dates specifically for board members, as you're invited to a number of these activities. The chair usually will reach out to Mr. Colkeen and say, please save seats for the following folks. But underclassmen awards are May 29th. That's at 6 p.m. That is in the auditorium. Senior awards are June the 5th, which is, I believe, Wednesday of the week. Those are at 6 p.m. in the auditorium. Both of those are usually about 2 hours long. We give out this extremely generous community. We do a lot of recognitions and a lot of scholarships, so I appreciate that in advance. Graduation is June the 7th. That is at 6 p.m. And again, we have saved seats in the past if board members would like to be present on the stage, shaking hands and meeting graduates. And then June 14th, Mr. Colkeen covered that already. It's the last day of school for grades 9 through 11. Seniors will have departed by then. I just wanted to say thank you really quickly to Georgia Payne and Fawn Rillamuto, who were our student representatives this past year. Georgia is a 12th grader, Fawn is a 12th grader. They're moving on after graduation. I wish them both good luck in their future. Emily and Chloe, I welcome you to the school board. And I hope you know what you got yourself into. And then I just have one note that I wanted to, just for the community, I guess those folks watching. I'd like to offer both an apology and a thank you to Lori Groton,
who is the president of the MAU Booster Club. The last time this board met, a community member took the opportunity during public comment to make disparaging remarks about Ms. Groton. I want to remind the school community that she gives hundreds of hours every year to service and helps raise thousands of dollars for scholarships that directly benefit our students. Ms. Groton's own student graduated from MAUHS in 2022, and yet she continues to serve this school community. I recognize that as a society, we have normalized and even some celebrate bullying behavior during public discourse. I want to apologize to Ms. Groton for the attack on her character and thank her for her tireless support of the school community. I did talk to Ms. Groton in advance, knowing that I would make this comment, and I appreciate your time.
Do you have a question?
No, it was a director. I wanted to know if he had the video with him. but-
No, I do not possess any video. I second it. I would say one other thing is Unified Basketball. I talked to Dave Maselli, who's the athletic director at Burton the very first year I was here. He said, Tim, it's the single most positive thing you're going to do for your school community. It will be absolutely transformative. They have a tradition where they play their games during the school day in order to fill the seats. This was our first. Students and staff were fantastic. They were positive. The unified game is a little bit different. You don't cheer against the other team. You cheer for both. No heckling of the officials. And it was a lot of fun. It's a really positive thing. And if you get a chance to come see them play next year, please take the opportunity. You're more than welcome to join us. Yeah, Dave was at the last game. So it's a lot of fun.
Any questions?
Thank you. Last time we met, I referenced a couple upcoming nights. I just wanted to give a little update about them. So on the 24th of April, we held our annual career fair, as it has been. It was a great success, run very smoothly. Great student engagement during it. We, a lot of thought goes into, we don't just load all the students into the gymnasium at the same time. We kind of cycle students in. There's some really clear directions for students to engage with the presenters. They have a little passport they carry around. They get, signatures. They do different interviews with presenters. They have to visit, several different clusters of career clusters. So it's really well run. I gotta say, Hannah Green, thank you to her. Again, she's one of the school counselors at the school. She just does an amazing job and puts so much into it. So again, it was a great success. The very next day, on the 25th, Thursday the 25th, we held a family night. First, I would say maybe the first annual. Might come back and start doing this every year. We had approximately 100 people show up for family night, so I was really proud of that. We had a presenter, a nationally known presenter, John Halligan, who I spoke about briefly at the last meeting. He presents on the topic of bullying and cyberbullying. So we invited him to come in during the school day for 3 student presentations, one for 6th grade, one for 7th, and one for 8th. And then we had him come back that evening and present to families. And the presentations are different. For the students, it's really a focus on bullying and cyberbullying. He speaks about his son, who he lost to suicide due to some severe bullying, a number of years ago. So he's kind of dedicated his work to this and goes around internationally and actually in other countries as well. Speaking on the topic, he really capitalizes on a challenge to apologize to students, for different situations that they might have engaged with this behavior. Talks a lot about being an upstander rather than a bystander, and talking about how, by being in the peripheral and laughing and cheering on, this kind of stuff, it's equally hurtful. And I think it was very impactful for the student body. They were really engaged and really attentive, and I think it was a really good presentation. The parent presentation is a little different. It really digs into social media and cell phones, and it looks at a lot of data from the YRBS, the Youth Risk Behavior Survey, and makes some correlations between cell phones and suicide rates and different things like that. And so it was equally impactful. And as we, you know, as we look at how we navigate, I'll say, how we navigate cell phones in schools, I think it was equally powerful for the parents. So, you know, I thank Mr. Halligan for his time, and I would strongly recommend him to other principals in other buildings. So it was a you know, tough topic, but a positive experience. Okay, so that's that. We were working through a series of transitional nights where nights and days where students are visiting the school and taking tours and seeing what it's like to, you know, be at Mount Anthony Middle School. So we have we had our rising 6th and 7th grade open houses. They were pretty well attended. We call Mr. Lee, one of my associate principals, tours the Tony's World Famous Tour. I was told by a parent, I'm really proud of this. I was told by a parent that my tour was the world's famous tour. And I was like, well, I'm going to tell Mr. Lee. He said, I'm going to tell that to Mr. Lee. So I'm moving up a little bit. I'm taking some out of Tony's playbook about how to give a good tour of the middle school. We've been busily trying to finish up our testing schedule. So we have MAP testing on Tuesday, and for ELA, we have it tomorrow for math, and that will wrap up our MAP testing. So again, I've said his name before, but Mr. Nicholas, school counselor, is my testing coordinator. He's done an amazing job, and it's more work than most realize to coordinate 3 rounds of MAP testing and several, you know, state tests and several other, you know, things that we have to take part in. And then I just want to wrap up with a couple important dates that Mr. Payne shared for his building. We have grade level award ceremonies planned on Thursday, the 13th, the day before the last day of school. We do not have all the time. We're still working on the batting order of those of those ceremonies to kind of coincide with the schedule, so we can allow more teachers to join. There's, you know, unified teachers often aren't able to join because they're with students, so we're trying to navigate that so we can have everybody participate. So we're working on the batting order of that, but it'll be throughout the morning of the 13th. And then our 8th grade celebration is the evening of Thursday, the 13th. And that will be at 6 o'clock. And, you know, we love to have board members present, you know, superintendent, assistant superintendent, anyone that would like to join us. I already have Mr. Thurber, who has communicated that he would like to be in attendance, but Mr. Culkeen, is that? It's Thursday, the 13th at 6 p.m. And Mr. Culkeen, is there any specific way that you would like people to reach out to attend that, or just reaching out to myself and Sarah at this time?
Easy.
Yeah.
To you, either one. If it's
Okay.
easier for them, we'll make sure that we get it to you.
Yeah, if you reach out directly to myself, if you can copy Sarah Hollister on that, she is making sure I have all the seats available, and, you know, she makes it happen at the middle school. So if you could include her on that, that'd be much
At
appreciated.
6 p.m. is that right?
Yep, 6 p.m. That is all I have. Thank you.
I just want to commend you for the program that was put together with Mr. Halloran and the parent piece too. I wasn't able to make it to the parent piece, but my wife was. But for the student side, I have a daughter who's in 7th grade, and it was really powerful for, I think, she and a lot of the kids, and it generated a lot of really great, hard but great dinner table conversations that lasted for several days, which tells me how powerful it was, because it wasn't in her mind and just out of her mind. It was there. And so I know it was a recommendation, I believe, several months ago from a mom or a grandmother.
Really, it was a student, and yes, you know, and the student's guardian also was part of that, but an 8th grade student really worked with Hannah Green and I to kind of make it all happen. And so she actually, the 8th grade student, Sophia Yanadi, also introduced Mr. Halligan for each of the grade level assemblies. And yeah, I was really proud of her. She did a really nice
Yeah,
job
it
of
was-
kind of helping make it happen.
Really good. So thank you.
I appreciate that. And, you know, the one other thing I would say is the number of students that approach Mr. Halligan after the presentations, it's really powerful. I mean, you know, a slew of students, like, you know, come up to him and just, you know, there's hugs sometimes, there's just messages of, to acknowledge also what he's been through, but also the message. And so it's just a really emotional, I mean, the presentation's an emotional, powerful presentation, and it's really good. It's all put together.
similar experience with my 8th grader who barely speaks when I pick him up from school, but I got 2 days worth of comments on it, which was impressive from him. I also, our office sent people to do career fair. And I think I know that must take a lot of work. And I was pleasantly surprised. Well, at first I thought it was bad note about my child, but I was pleasantly surprised to receive something back from the middle school. And it was 3 letters written to one of our engineers from the kids and with pictures and everything. And they were fantastic, like describing. So it's a nice touch to thank the employers in that way. It was a nice way to bring it back around. So
I'm glad to hear that there was good conversations around this. Thank you.
for any other comments or questions?
Yeah, I have a question. I mean, it sounds like it was a great week. Both of these events are in the same week, right? We were unfortunately out of town. But I don't want to lose sight of what you said around the cell phone use and how that's navigated during schools. And so I wonder if there are follow-up conversations specifically around that piece. Do you envision any changes to cell phone policies in school, or, you know, what's the, so what?
What I can say is that we've been gathering information, data, research from articles and such from other schools that have like taken additional steps from where we are to restrict cell phone use, and we've been engaging Mrs. Boudreau, assistant superintendent, in those conversations starting last summer. And so I have sent along and read and sent along a handful of articles I have. My staff has been great. I mean, they see some of the challenges and issues that are presented in the school. And so they're finding stuff and sending stuff to me, different articles, different school districts. And, I don't want to get ahead of things and say, hey, like, this is where we're moving, or this is what we're requesting for this policy. But I feel that some changes are going to need to happen. And I'm working with Mrs. Boudreau and others from district to talk about that.
The high school's also exploring
Absolutely.
cell phone usage.
We don't allow them currently in the school. They're supposed to be off and away. It's very hard to enforce. And we work really hard to do that, but I think other steps are going to need to happen.
Committee reports.
So there's only a few of you that missed the meeting, so sorry for the repeat for those who were here. So we had a full hour meeting. We talked about, we got an update on the financial literacy requirements, and Ms. Boudreau advised that the math team is currently working on reviewing the curriculum and how it works with math and what that's going to look like in the future in terms of bringing that requirement into the standards. So more to come there. We are gonna, the follow-up question was a timeline, expected timeline, and Ms. Boudreau is gonna come back with that information at our next meeting, and then we will determine what our check-ins will look like from a update perspective. There were some questions regarding continuous improvement plan. Ms. Boudreau is gonna go back and get some additional information in terms of actions as it results to the goals. So more to come there, as I know that is currently being worked on, so that will probably take a little bit. We talked again about flexible pathways in terms of physical education for student athletes. So there's additional information that is going to be gathered by Mrs. Boudreau there in regards to other schools and how they are currently utilizing that flexible pathway. And then we will kind of talk through what that looks like in the future, if anything. We talked about a discussion regarding lacrosse at the middle school. Mike Malloy is going to do some research in regards to some schools that are currently putting middle school as lacrosse as a middle school sport in their districts recently, and have moved away from the youth club program. So more information to come there to kind of determine what our opportunities are there to help bolster our participation in that sport, because it is dwindling currently. Then just asked some questions in regard to coaching assessments and athletic survey, athlete surveys. And Mr. Malloy provided his plan for the end of the year and what his philosophy is in terms of touching base with students and meeting with coaches. So I think that was it.
I believe the ag committee met and I was unable to attend, so I don't have an update, but I will get the update for the next meeting. Are there any other committees that met?
And there was also a discussion on the Education, Athletics, and Activities Committee in general and the value of it versus having those discussions in the general board meeting. So that may be something that we want to add to an agenda.
For a future, why don't we make that an agenda item for a future board meeting, we can talk about one. Okay. Okay. From a chair's report, I don't have anything this evening. We have enclosed our budget status report and student enrollment report. I did have one question from Kristen, who was not able to attend today with respect to the student enrollment. She was wondering why we lost 90 students from 11th grade to 12th in the for the 2022-2023 school year to the 2023-2024 school year. So I don't know if that's something we can answer for next meeting or have a discussion on. I can give you the information that she asked.
Yeah.
If that works. Okay, and the next item on the list is executive session as per 1 BSA section 3137, the academic records or suspension or discipline of a student. Can I have a motion? Who do we need?
Crystal McGuire, superintendent.
Can I have a motion to move into executive session with Principal McGuire and Superintendent Polkey?
So and if potentially is action.
So, all in favor?
Aye.
To, session,
So moved.
public session, sorry. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Can I have a motion to approve the request from the middle school principal as presented in executive session?
So
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
I have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All in favor?